Well, good afternoon, everyone. As Michael already stated, this session is being
Jackie
recorded.
Holt.
Is
So
now
you'll
joining.
notice that it does let you know that the meeting is being recorded going straight across the top of your screen right now. I am Siobhan Smith, the local Microsoft and Education Learning Consultant, and I'm just going to be working you and walking you through an introduction to Microsoft Teams. I'm going to start sharing out my screen momentarily. And while I'm doing that, we do have one ask, and that is that while we're in this session, so at least for the majority of this session, that you do mute your mic. We'll definitely leave time at the end for Q&A, but during the session, we do ask that your mic be muted. You should be looking at my screen right now. And just in case you don't know where to go to mute your mic, there's an options bar that shows up whenever you're in Microsoft Teams and you're hovering your mouse over your screen. On that options bar, about your third icon in from your left is going to look like a mic. That is where you can mute or unmute yourself. So we will leave time towards the end where you can bring off yourself off of mute and ask questions. But during the session, just asking that you do keep yourself on mute.
Somebody needs to mute.
There we go. One thing I will show you is while we're in this session and while everyone is muted, you do have an option to type out questions. So there is a meeting chat associated with this. Whenever you're in a Microsoft Teams meeting, which is what's showing on my screen now, and you see that options bar, the third option in from your left will probably be something that looks like a little chat button to show your conversation. When you click on that, it will open up a meeting chat to your right-hand side. If you have a question that you think you may forget before we get to the end, please feel free to simply click on the show or hide conversation, let your meeting chat open to the right-hand side, and drop any questions that you may have into that meeting chat. I'll be checking it momentarily. Yes, this is the Introduction 101. I'll be checking the meeting chat momentarily while we're starting, in the middle, and towards the end to see if there are any questions that I need to answer while we're working through, but if not, I'll definitely answer them at the end. While I'm sharing out my screen, I do have the desktop version of Microsoft Teams showing. You can tell that you're in the desktop version because there's no address bar going across the top. You can access Microsoft Teams from your desktop computer, your laptop, your cell phone, your tablets, your whatever type of computer, your MacBooks, your iOS, your iMacs, anything that has internet access, you have access to Microsoft Teams. What you see again here on my screen now is the desktop version. I know it's desktop because there's no address bar going across the top. If I'm in the online version, which is an option, you'll notice that there will be an address bar going across the top of my screen. With these different types of access that you have to Teams, desktop versus online, there are a couple of major differences. The first one is the number of individuals that you can see on a screen while the meeting is going on. If you're on this desktop version of Teams, again, you don't see an address bar at the top, so this is desktop. You can see up to 9 individuals that are off mute on screen at one given time. So it's a 3x3 grid, 3 across, 3 down, 9 individuals total. If I'm in the online version, I see the one person that's speaking center of screen. And that's kind of the way Microsoft Teams handles who you see on your screen, is it will always be the people who most recently came off of mute or whoever is talking at that time. So even in your 3x3 grid, it determines who takes up one of the spaces in that 3x3 by the person who's last come off of mute or the person that's speaking at that time. So that's one of your major differences between your desktop version and your online version. Another difference are the background effects you get when you have your camera turned on during a meeting. So let's say I have my camera turned on. You'll see in my desktop version, when I click on those three ellipses, I have an option to show background effects. Microsoft has already put a couple of different background effects that you could choose from. This is what will cover your background. So I know in some of our other meeting apps, you get customized backgrounds. Microsoft has pre-populated some, and slowly but surely they are rolling it out so you'll be able to add in your own custom backgrounds. You only get this on the desktop version. In the online version, all you have is the opportunity to blur your background. So if you want custom background effects, that's another reason to have the desktop version versus the online version. And I see a question. And I apologize for that, Joyce Ann. I'm not sure. I'm looking at my internet right now, and we'll actually show you one place you can see device settings during a meeting, which shows that my speakers are good, my mic is there, and I'm just going to have to apologize. I'm not sure what I can do today to make my signal any better. I've already talked to Xfinity, and they're not being very pleasant with me. So I do apologize for that. So during your meeting, you do have this option during any meeting, as you saw how I went over to conversation to see what is going on. No, we started right at 1:30. So we're just kind of doing an overview right now of what the team screen is and the difference between the desktop version and the online version. So we started right at 1:30. You haven't missed anything at all. Background effects in desktop, not in your online, and then just general stability of Microsoft Teams is definitely going to be better when you're using your desktop version versus the online version. So those are the two biggest differences. I am having this meeting right now with you all using my desktop version, but when I walk you through everything, I'm going to be doing it from my online version. If you need the desktop version because you have the online version, there are a couple of easy ways to get that. You can log in to your Office 365 home screen. So this is just me going to Office 365, the same place that I check my emails in the morning and do everything else. And I can open Microsoft Teams from here. This is probably how you navigate it into your online version. When you have the online version open, you can go to that far left rail and all the way down to the bottom. You'll see what looks like a computer screen with an arrow pointing down through it. That will download the desktop application to your device. So if you ever do need to get the desktop version of Microsoft Teams downloaded to your device, you can simply go to your Office 365 home screen, open the Teams web-based version, and then all the way down in that far left corner, you'll see what looks like a computer screen with an arrow pointing down through it, and that's how you can download your desktop version of Teams. It will recognize whichever version you're using. So if you need it to be on a Mac, it will download the Mac version. If you need it to be on a PC, it will download the PC version. It does that for you and will make sure you have the right version on your device. Now that we're in Microsoft Teams, let's take a second and start to think about what Microsoft Teams is. A lot of times we ask you to start learning a new tool, and Teams can be really overwhelming. It can seem like it's a lot, but the great thing about Microsoft Teams is it takes the things that you already do on a day-to-day basis and just brings them into one spot. So we tend to say Teams is a hub. Thinking about the things that I do on a daily basis. I normally communicate with individuals and I collaborate. Those are the two biggest strengths of Teams. I check email to have conversations back and forth with my coworkers. I can do that in Teams. I may attach documents so that I can share them with individuals so anybody else may be able to edit or make changes or just have a copy of a document that I'm sharing. I can do that in Teams. I may pick up my cell phone to send a text message to someone I need to chat with. I can do that in Teams. We may do project management and need to set up planners and things like that. We can do that in Teams. When I'm thinking about working and collaborating, I may need to have a meeting, a video call, or just set up a regular meeting. I can do all of that within Teams. So the general thing of Teams is it's not a brand new tool. It's taking all of the things that you're used to doing separately and just bringing them into one central hub. Starting off in Microsoft Teams.
Siobhan, I'm going to interject for 1 second. I want to make sure everybody is muted because we're still hearing some anomalies coming through. Everybody should be on mute. All right, thanks.
And while we're here, I do want to answer some of these questions. The first one is, can you hide the taskbar or move it? As of right now, you cannot move the taskbar, but if you move your mouse off of your screen and just kind of click somewhere else on your screen, your taskbar, that options bar that's probably blocking some of what I'm showing, will go away. If you click back onto your screen, it does show back up. So that is one of those things in Teams is if you have your screen showing, and actually someone else is sharing their screen right now, so I'm going to reshare mine. If you hover your mouse over your screen while you're in a Teams meeting and kind of click somewhere else on your screen, this options bar will go away. But if you do click back into your meeting or kind of cover or hover over your screen, it will show back up. So that's something to remember. At the end of this month into June, they are rolling out a new update where this bar will be moved into your upper right-hand corner so it won't block the screen. But as of right now, there is no way to move that bar. There's a question about how do you share documents and presentations while in a team, and can you enlarge your share screen? It is too small. So when you're looking at it now, are you seeing it taking up the entire part? And this is for Robert. When you're looking at the screen now, is it taking up your entire screen or is it down in one small box?
When you say Robert,
I think it says Robert G. Tom. You asked the question about can you enlarge? Whichever Robert G. Tom asked the question about can you enlarge your share screen? It is too small. So I wanted to know, are you referencing my screen now that I'm sharing out with you that is too small for you to see? And is it taking up the entire center of your screen or is it in a small box? It is larger. Okay. So every now and then I may minimize my screen just a little if I'm ever showing you something on that options bar, simply because if you have the options bar on your screen, it may cover some of the things that I'm showing. So I'm going to go back now. And if you're asking for how you share things, and we'll definitely get to this shortly, but just so you know now, when you have your options bar showing on your screen, and Joyce, if you could put yourself on mute, please. I think that's where some of the background is coming from. Thank you. If you have your options bar showing on your screen, the fourth icon in, it will look like a box with an arrow pointing through it. That's your share tray. That's how you share out documents and presentations while you're in a meeting. And we'll get into how you can share it out with a full team momentarily. So I'm going to minimize that meeting and I'm going to come back into Microsoft Teams. When you're in Microsoft Teams, your screen is kind of divided up into two spaces. You have your far left rail, which is your me space. These are things that you have access to that are separate from being a part of a major team. And you have your right-hand side, that's going to be your we space. This is all of your collaborative workspace. This is where you are a part of a team and you're working within your team. So far left rail is me space. Your right-hand side is going to be your we space. Just to give you an overview of what's on this far left rail, You start off with your activity feed. That's just an easy way to get an overview of everything that's going on in all of the teams that you're a part of very quickly. So you can see if anyone has mentioned you, if someone has added something to a team that you're a part of. It's just a really quick, this is what's happened in Microsoft Teams since the last time I've been there. Below your activity bell, you have chat. Chat is when I mentioned, instead of always having to pull out your phone and text message someone, you do have the ability to have one-on-one or one-on-few conversations via chat in Microsoft Teams. When I'm in this chat space, you'll notice that I can start a new chat just across the top. There's a little pencil in a box for a new chat. Once I tap that, I can start to type in names of individuals in my organization, and it will start to populate their names. Once their names have been added in, within this chat space, I have the ability to do a chat-based message. So now that I'm having this conversation with Shay, Siobhan, and Renetta, I can come down to the bottom of my screen and I can type in my message. Outside of it simply being me typing in messages, going back down to the bottom of that screen, I'll notice that there's a paperclip. I can attach documents into this conversation. So again, this is one-on-one or one-on-few. Instead of me pulling out my cell phone to text message somebody, instead of me relying on a third-party app or a secondary application to have chat or messaging, I can do that directly within Teams. When I come down here and I click on that paperclip to attach, I can choose a document from my computer, or I can choose a document that I have saved in my OneDrive. If I choose to upload a document from my computer, it simply takes me into the same screen if I was attaching it to an email. And I can choose a document, and I'll do a Word document for this one. I can see that it's uploading because the green bar was going across. And now, as I zoom in, you'll see that I have some options for this document. I can say anyone with the link can edit, and I can click on that drop-down caret right next to there, and I have sharing privileges and permissions that I can set. Default, it says anyone with the link, but I could change it to only people in my organization. I can also change it to people currently in this chat, people with existing access, so individuals I may have shared this document with prior to today. Or if I say specific people, I can type in names of the individuals that I want to have access to this document. If I want it to be a collaborative document, I would simply choose Allow Editing. This is very similar to if you've been a Google Docs user and you want multiple people to be able to work in a document together in real time. I would make sure I have Allow Editing checked. If I don't want it to be a collaborative document and I want it to be read only or someone just have their own copy, I simply uncheck Allow Editing, and now it's a view only document. For this one, I want people in this chat to have access, which is Renetta, Siobhan, and Shay. And I do want it to be collaborative, so I'm going to make sure I click Allow Editing and Apply. Once I hit Send, this document now lives in this chat. And we can have up to 10 documents that we're working collaboratively on in this chat space. I can also add additional tabs. So when I'm thinking about this one-on-one, one-on-few conversation space, we may need to look at a website and review that together. There may be a PowerPoint presentation that I want us to review. I'm simply going to click on that plus sign across the top. So I'll see the name of the individuals that are in the chat. I'll see a Files tab, and I'll see a plus sign. And when I click on the plus, I'll see the other tabs that I can add in. That can be an Excel document I want us to review, a YouTube video I want us to watch, a website I want us to reference. And then there's a list of third-party apps. And these are all apps that can be added as tabs within a team as well. So this gives you a lot of additional functionality to just a regular chat message. You can also do a video call. I can either click on the camera that's right across the top of this chat, and that will launch a video call right then with the individuals that are a part of that chat. Or if I need to schedule something in advance, I can go down to the bottom of this screen, right under where I type in my message, and I'll see that there's a calendar. When I click on the calendar, it allows me to schedule a meeting. So if it's something that needed to take place at a set
We can't hear you.
Yeah, we lost the audio there.
Okay, I think I got it. There was a mute all and I got muted in the mute all. I apologize for that and I wasn't paying attention to notice. So that actually is an answer to Ronald's question, which was, can the host mute participants, or is there a version that allows the host to control who speaks? So like I said, I am going to be going back and forth from question and answer and demoing Teams. And at times like this, where something comes up that's a perfect fit to something that's going on, I think this is an ideal time to answer that question. The host does have mute all permissions. I'm outside of your organization, so it will not show up for me. But if you were to click on the show participants from your options bar when you're in a Teams meeting, right at the top where it says currently in this meeting, if you were the host or in your own organization, there is an option for mute all. So the host does have the option to mute all participants in a chat. The other question or other part of that question was, is there a version that allows the host to control who speaks? There is a Teams live event. It doesn't let them control who speaks, but it's more used for lectures when you don't want anyone else to come off of mute. It is a one-way video call / webinar, and there can be a chat-based Q&A. As far as the host being able to unmute individuals, the host will never have the privileges to unmute someone. That violates a privacy policy. So the host can mute all, but they cannot bring anybody off of mute. And while I'm here, do all members of the team see anything entered in the chat box, or can it be sent to only one person in the group? So if you're doing something in a chat, this is not part of a team yet. We're still just purely in the chat space. If I have a chat with Renetta, Siobhan, and Shay, and I type something in this chat, all three of these individuals will see it. If I wanted to say something just to Renetta, I can start a private chat with just Renetta and be able to have my one-on-one conversation with her here that no one else will be able to see. One good thing about having this chat space, if you're thinking about managing who can see what, is let's say a month from now, I want to add someone else into this chat message. You can add individuals simply by going all the way over to your far right. When I click on it, I'll see the option to add people. And once I add in a person, I do get to control how much of the past chat history they can see. So I can say Emily doesn't need to see any of the chat history that Renetta, Siobhan, and Shay had prior to that day. I can say she has access to all of the chat history. Or I can say over the last 3 days, we've been discussing onboarding. We can add only that. So she'll only have access to the 3 days, not any of the past conversations. But if I ever did want to just do a one-on-one private chat, I would just start a new one with only the individual that I want to have a conversation with. Coming out of that chat space, and one more thing before I come out, naming your chats. This is just the best practice that we have because we do so many chat conversations, and I may have 2 or 3 conversations that have both Emily and Renetta in them, and I don't want to get them confused, I'm going to find that pencil across the top when I have a chat message going on. When I click on that pencil, I can name my chat. And now you'll see in this rail where it lists all of my chat conversations, it's actually titled Customer Webinar. So it makes it easier for me to reference back and find the chat conversation because it has a title and I know what it's about, instead of getting confused with another chat that may have Renetta in it as well. Coming down from chat, we're going to come back to Teams last because that's where we're going to spend the majority of our time. You also have calendar within your Teams. The calendar that's built into Teams does talk to your Outlook calendar, and your Outlook calendar does talk to this calendar. It will show any Teams meetings that you scheduled either from Outlook or from Teams. If I schedule a meeting directly from this calendar, I can simply go up to the top and I'll see an option for new meeting. I can click on new meeting to schedule it. Or if I'm looking at the calendar like this, I can simply click on the date and time that I want that meeting to take place. So I can say Friday at 2 p.m. I can say Friday at 2 p.m. is the time that I want to have this meeting. When I click into, and I just wanted to make sure I didn't mute myself again, I apologize. Now we're going back to our meeting screen. If I say Friday, 2 p.m. is going to be my meeting start time, I can add in my title. I can add in my required attendees. So these are going to be the individuals that I want to participate in this meeting. And again, as I start typing in their names, they'll automatically populate. I can choose that this is going to be a repetitive meeting. So if I want this meeting to happen weekly, I can say weekly, and you'll notice it occurs every Friday starting 5/22. This means I don't have to do calendar invites each week. This one invite will stand and it will populate on the calendar for every Friday starting on the 22nd. I can add a location if it's going to be a face-to-face meeting, but because I'm scheduling this meeting from within Teams, it's automatically recognizing that and it's going to make it a Teams meeting. So there will be a link that can be shared out as part of this email invite or as part of this calendar event, and anyone can join the meeting from there. And I'll add Renetta to this as well. When I'm happy with my meeting, I simply click send, and you'll notice that it is populating on my Teams calendar. This is also populated on my Outlook calendar, so I don't have to do it twice. While we're here, I do want to point out some meeting options that you have. So I'm going to click into that meeting. When I'm in a meeting that I have scheduled and I click into it, I now have meeting options. When I click into my meeting options, from here, I can choose and set some parameters for my meeting. I can say, who do I want to be able to bypass the lobby? Default will be people in my organization. I can say everyone. That means if I plan on having guests or external participants, someone from a different university, someone from a nonprofit, someone from a different campus or organization that does not have that same email address that I have, they can bypass the lobby. Or I can say only people in my organization. That means that if a guest was to call into this meeting, they would you can invite someone not in your organization. So if a guest was to call into this meeting or dial into this meeting, they would have to wait in a lobby until someone admitted them, but they would be able, outside people would be able to join your meeting. Or I can set it that people in my organization and trusted organizations can join my meeting. This is something that has to be set up at the IT level for trusted organizations. So if there's another school or another organization that you work with very closely, they can be added as a trusted organization and they won't have to wait in a lobby. When it says always let callers bypass the lobby, this is referencing the dial-in numbers that you get when you create Teams meetings. So if I want to say anyone dialing into the meeting can bypass the lobby, I can turn that on as well. Announce when callers join or leave. At the beginning of this meeting, I believe we experienced that where someone was calling in, the caller had to have their name recorded, and then it announced to the whole meeting who was dialing in. I can turn that feature on or off. This is the most important one, so I want to make sure we can all see this one, where it says who can present. When you're thinking about setting up a meeting and best practices, who can present is extremely important. Right now, it's set to everyone. And when it says present, that means presenter privileges. That person can share their screen. That person can record the meeting. That person can mute all. That person can also remove individuals from a meeting. So be very careful when you set it to who can present and leave it as everyone. A best practice I've seen is I may say in the beginning, only me. So I'm only giving myself presenter privileges, but during the meeting as needed, I can go back and add additional people that may need to present. So I can turn those presenter privileges on and off while the meeting is going on. But I want to be cautious again, because when I say someone is a presenter, that means they can mute all, that means they can share their screens, and that means they can remove people from a meeting. I can leave it that only people in my organization can present, and some individuals do choose to do it this way. Or I can say specific people. And if I say specific people can present, it's going to give me a list of the participants that I've added to the meeting invite, and I can choose which of them I want to have presenter privileges. So you do have some options for who you give presenter privileges to in a meeting. Just know if you're ever thinking about doing a meeting for classroom usage, be cautious, because we don't want students always having that ability to mute everyone. We don't want them always having the ability to share out their screens, nor do we want them to always have the ability to add or remove individuals from a meeting. So being careful with that. Once you're happy, you click save. Your meeting privileges are updated. And you can always change these even while a meeting is going on. So this does not have to be all the time. This is just a good way to start your meeting so that you can make sure you're set up for success. When you're in your calendar, one more type of meeting that you can set up is called a meet now. This is going to be that I just thought about it. I don't want to schedule something, but I may need to meet with a group of individuals. I can click meet now. It will bring me into this screen. I'm able to title my meeting. So where it says meeting with Siobhan Smith, I can change that title to say this is going to be our class catch up. I can choose to have my camera on or off. I can choose to have my mic on or off, and I'm able to join my meeting. Once my meeting is started, and once I've joined this meeting, I can choose to either turn my camera on or off again. And this is where you can see what sharing your screen looks like. So I can share my screen, and I can choose what we see. I can choose to share my desktop. I can choose to share a PowerPoint presentation. I could choose to share a whiteboard, and you do have more sharing options from the desktop version. I can also add people into this meeting. So when I'm ready to start inviting people into this meeting, I simply go over to my far right-hand side, and as I start to type in names, it will call out to those individuals and bring them into this meeting. I can also get this join code. So it says copy join info. I can copy this and share this out via email or text message or whatever other communication methods I use. And that's a way to bring people into the meeting as well. How do I invite someone? So hopefully that answered that question, Robert. I wasn't sure if that was you who asked. I wanted to make sure. So when you're doing a meet now, the way that you invite someone into that meeting is simply by going up to this top corner. So you want to click on show or hide participants. And where it says invite someone, you would simply type in their name if they're in your organization. Or if they're outside of your organization and you do have guest access turned on, I can type in an external email address as well. So those are the two ways to invite people to a meet now. The way I'm zooming in and zooming out, I'm simply doing that from my computer screen. So that's not a Teams thing. That's just me kind of hovering my mouse over and making my screen bigger or smaller, just because I wanted to make sure that you all could see certain things that I'm doing. Another couple of features when you're in your meetings, they have added a new feature where you can download an attendee list. So if you have a meeting going on and you need to see who did show up, you can download an attendee list for the meeting. When it's time for you to end your meeting, you do have the option to simply choose that far right hang up, and that will remove you from the meeting. So I can hang up. But just like in a real classroom, if we're doing this with students, sometimes individuals like to linger in a meeting even after I've left. I can choose to end the meeting for everyone. And the way that I do that is simply clicking on those three ellipses for more actions. And you'll see that there's an option to end meeting. When I choose end meeting, it removes everyone from the meeting. And it tells me if I end this meeting, I'm ending it for everyone. If I'm happy with that, I simply click end. It kicks everyone out of the meeting and the meeting is over. So those are some best practices for ways that you can handle meetings. Coming down that left rail, the last thing I want to show is files, simply because we did talk about sharing files and collaborating on files. Because this is my me space, ME, this is not part of a team. Whenever I look at files from here, these are files that I have access to, not my whole team. Right now, me space, only me. So I can link my Google Drive and I can see the files that are in my Google Drive. I use OneDrive, so I can see the files that are in my OneDrive. When you click Add Cloud Storage at the bottom, you do have an option of adding in a Dropbox or an Ignite, and these are both online web-based or cloud storage systems. You can choose Google Drive, Dropbox, or Ignite. OneDrive comes standard because Microsoft is OneDrive. And when you have access to your OneDrive in Teams, this is your full OneDrive. So I can see all of the files that I've been working on. I can share files directly from here. So if I wanted to share out this document, I could simply hover over it, find my three ellipses for more actions. I can open this document either in Word online, in Word, or right here in Microsoft Teams. I can get a copy link if I needed to share this document out with individuals. I can download it. So if I'm on a different device than my normal device, but I need a hard copy, I can download it. I can delete it. I can rename it. I can open it in my full version of OneDrive, which is helpful if I need to look at document versions or look at past versions of this document. I can also move it to another folder, and I can copy this. And when we get into working in a team, which is where we're going next, I'll come back and show you why copy is so beneficial. So that is your me space. This far left rail is all things you can do separate of being a part of a team. So let's see if we have questions on me space. before we get into an actual team, which is your we space? Do they get an invite via an email? If yes, do you put the email in when you add the invitees' names? So to answer your question, if you create an event in calendar, so if you create a Teams meeting in your calendar, and I go to just a regular new meeting, in order for individuals to get an email invite, it has to be something that's scheduled, and you would simply type in their names where it says add required attendees. Any names that you type here, they will get a meeting invite. Only a pre-scheduled meeting, so not a meet now, something that you're actually scheduling, and names that you type in here, one by one, will get a meeting invite to that meeting being scheduled in Teams. Coming back. If someone else set up a Teams meeting, can anyone add the agenda to the meeting for the group to see? If someone else set up a Teams meeting and someone else wanted to add an agenda, the easiest way would be right now when you go over to that chat space, so show or hide conversation, and you have meeting chat, which is what you're looking at on my screen now. Because I'm a guest in your organization, I don't have a full set of options showing down for me at the bottom. But if I was within your organization, one of those options would be a paperclip, and you can upload into this meeting chat so you could put in an agenda that way. If you wanted to put it in from within the calendar invite and clicking into a meeting that you already have scheduled and putting it in as meeting notes, it would need to be the person who scheduled the meeting in order for them to do that, because they would have to go into the invite from their calendar. Can you stop others from recording the meeting? So to answer that one, if you're thinking about can a student record, there is something that can be turned off at the administration level that will choose whether or not students are allowed to record or not record. But if everyone is in as a faculty member, I believe for your organization, all faculty has the recording feature turned on. How do you turn on guest access? That's a decision made by your university IT department. You don't see the attendance link to download. Is that coming in an update? Michael, we'll have to check on why you don't see that, because you should by now. I think that update started rolling out maybe last week or the week before. How do you add your Google Drive to file folder? When I go to this far left rail and I click on files and I go down to the bottom where it says add cloud storage, right now mine says Dropbox or Ignite because I already have my Google Drive added. But if I did not have Google Drive added, it would be a third option right here that would say Google Drive. I would simply click onto that and it would have me sign into my Gmail account. And then I would have access to my Google Drive from within files. So for me, I don't stay signed in to my Google account on my work computers because I can't ever remember my password. But this would, now that I've signed in, I do have access to my full Google Drive from within Teams. And I think there was one more question, and then we will go into the broad access of Teams. Can an individual have access to Teams without having an Outlook account? They can have access to Teams meetings. So you can invite someone into a Teams meeting. They don't have to have Outlook. They can have AOL, they can have Yahoo, they can have any type of email address. They don't have to have an Outlook account or a Teams account if you want them to participate in the meeting. But being able to have access to the full suite, the full feature of Teams, they would need to have an Office 365 account, and all Office 365 accounts come with an Outlook email. So Nigel, if we can talk about this later, or you can message me, I'm going to drop my information into the chat at the end, or it may be something from within your organization, and just figure out what your specific use case scenario is and see if there's a way that that can work for you. And that's all of our questions so far. So now we're going to look at an actual Microsoft team. When you click on Teams from that far left rail, you will see all of the teams that you are a part of. And I'm going to do this from the online version so I don't disconnect from this call by mistake. These are all of the teams that I'm a part of. So I have my most used teams in the top, and then I can hide teams that I don't use as often, so I can see my hidden teams here. In order to hide a team that you may not use as often, you just want to click on the 3 ellipses next to the team name, and you would choose hide. And it just moves it from your most frequently used teams down to the bottom, and then I can close that little caret and I don't have to see those. I'm in the grid view of Teams. So there's 2 views you can have with Microsoft Teams. This is my grid view. It's block-based. It works really well for me. I always tended to have the office where people were coming and going. Somebody was always standing behind me. I didn't need for them to see all the information, so I liked this grid view. But by simply going across the top in Microsoft Teams, finding the little icon that is either your face, your initials, or a big yellow Microsoft smiley face, and clicking on there, I can go into settings and I can change it to a list view. And when I have my teams turned to list view, you'll notice that instead of having that grid, it shows all of my teams as a list. I can see all of them. For me, this wasn't ideal. Again, I don't know who's standing behind me. I don't know who's in my office. I had parents, I had students, I had guests, and sometimes I liked a little bit more privacy. I didn't need for them to see the activity. I personally prefer grid view, but list view is an option. When you're in a team, you can start teams. So now that I'm part of a Microsoft team, I actually clicked on Teams from this far left rail. You'll see join or create a team. In list view, it's in my bottom left corner. If I was in grid view, it will be in my upper right corner. So list view, join or create a team is bottom left. If you're looking at a grid, so blocks, you'll see join or create team in your upper right. There's 4 types of teams in Microsoft Teams: a classroom team, a professional learning community team, a staff team, and an other team. The biggest difference in these teams, the type of OneNote notebook that it creates, class team and staff team, it's like a hierarchy. You get an owner, and then you get a notebook that has smaller individual notebooks that belong to each member of that team. So I always say it's like a principal in a high school having a really big binder that they carry around with them. There's going to be a collaboration space that them and all their staff can work in together. There's going to be a content library that's like a file cabinet where one person can go, they can look at a document, they can copy a document, but they can't make any changes to the original. And then in that binder, each individual staff member has their own binder that only them and the principal can see. So that's staff, the same for class, except for being a staff member, it's a student. Professional learning community and other are your more open and broad teams. So for this one, I'm going to do an other team, just so we can see what all the features are. You can choose to make your team private, which means that you as the owner are the only one who can add members, or you can make it public, which means anyone in your organization can find this team and just choose to join it. I learned the hard way by ruining somebody's retirement party that I stick with private teams. Once my team is created, I can start typing in the names of the individuals that I want to be a part of my team. And I can add them this way. Once I have my team created, this is what I see. My team, and I have this other team that's showing right here. I have channels. Channels run vertically, and we talked about channels this morning, and we'll be doing another session soon on just channels. Channels run vertically, tabs run horizontally. Every team that you create gets a general channel. That is your catch-all. That's where all of your posts, all of your files, and all of the additional tabs that you want to add in for functionality can go. General is open to every member of that team. But I can also click on those 3 ellipses and add channels. This is when I want to break my teams down into smaller groups. So if I have students, I may break them up by teams. If I'm working on a lesson, I may break it up by units. If I'm working with my department, we may break it up by the different projects that we're working on. So I could have a fundraiser. We may be doing our budgeting for the end of the year. We may be planning a rollout or orientation. I can name these channels based off of these smaller projects that we're working on. Each channel that I create gets its own post space, its own file space. Post space is like a conversation. This is a conversation space that everyone that's a part of that team has access to. So we can have broad, open conversations here that every member of the team has access to. Every team member can respond here. Every team member can post here. We can drop everything here. That's post, conversations. Next to post, you have a file space. This is a shared collaborative space. So think of this like a OneDrive specifically for that team. I can upload documents, files, or entire folders from my computer and have them live in this team. That grants everyone that's a part of this team collaborative access to those documents. So it's a really good and easy way that if we're all working on a project and I want everyone to be able to edit and work in real time on documents, I can put those here. I can create new documents within this file space. If it's going to be a new Word document, a new Excel workbook, a new PowerPoint presentation, a new OneNote notebook, or new forms, I can create all of those directly within this files space. So if I wanted to create a new Word doc, I would simply click New, choose Word, and now type in a title and create it. And this Word document is going to live in this team. Everyone that's a part of this team can come here and now work in this Word document together. You don't have to worry about saving. It auto saves. And when I'm done, I click close. And now you'll see in this file space that document lives there. I can also, we talked about being over here with files, that far left rail. I'm going to click into files. And now I have access to either my entire Google Drive or my OneDrive. Let's say I had a document in my OneDrive that I wanted to share with that team. I can now find that document from my Me space, find it in my OneDrive, and this is where I want to use copy. I can say copy it. I want to browse my teams and channels, and this will show me every team that I'm a member of and every team that I have access to. And I am going to find that team that I just created. So that was other team. I want to put it in that general channel that everyone has access to. And I'm going to say copy. And remember, I'm just doing this from accessing my OneDrive and files. Now, when I go back to that team that I'm a part of, you can see that that document is here now. That same document I accessed from files, I was able to push a copy over to this team. Now, everyone that's a member of this team has a copy of that document that they can work on in real time. I can also add tabs. So just like we did in chat, if there's a YouTube video I need us to watch, if there's a website I need us to reference, if there's a form I need everyone to fill out, if there's a PDF I want us all to review, I can have all of those things pinned to the top of my team. So let's say that new Word document, I want everyone to see it because I want everyone to work on it. I'm going to pin that to the top. And now you'll notice that there's a new tab going across the top and everyone has access to this document. And you could continue to pin additional tabs to the top of this team. It just really makes it easy for individuals to see it front and center, and it's something that just draws attention. And you get a dedicated set of tabs for every channel in that team. So right now, this is my sample PLC, or my other team. This is my other team. I'm in the general, and you can see I pinned that. But if I go down in my other team and I go to one of the other channels that I have created for this team, like fundraiser, you'll notice that's not there because I get my own set of tabs that I can add here. You'll notice that there's nothing in the file space because I can add my own set of files to this space. So each channel gets its own dedicated post, its own dedicated file space, and its own dedicated set of tabs. You can also have meetings in these channels. You'll notice I have that meet icon right here in my upper right-hand corner. If you don't see it there, it may be down towards the bottom under your conversation bar, but I can have a meeting directly in this channel. The great thing about that is if I record that meeting will now live in this channel. So someone who missed it can always come back and reference it directly from within this channel and as a part of this team. Another thing I do want to show, and then we're going to do Q&A, is the great thing about this post space. If anybody's familiar with social media, you know that you have walls or you have comments and a place that you can go and share out on social media. When you have a conversation space within Teams, it is a threaded conversation, meaning that if someone asks a question here, instead of me going down here and starting a new response, I can simply click reply to the message that was posted, and now I'm replying directly to this. It keeps it threaded. Multiple individuals can come and reply, and it will be a threaded message. And you'll see that in that reply, I can attach documents. I can put in smiley faces, GIFs, stickers, schedule a meeting, do a meeting, a meet now. I have all of those features directly within this team. So now I'm going to go back, look at any questions that were dropped into the chat, and feel free to come off of mute with any questions that you may have.
Siobhan, will we receive any, will we receive this type of training in any type of Word document or PDF when you're done?
So you will have this as a recording, and I will drop in, and David dropped it into the last one. There is a Microsoft Teams quick start that will make sure to drop into this chat. As a reminder, when a meeting is over like this, your chat message continues on. So you can always go back to the chat on that far left rail of Teams, and I'll drop some documents, or David will drop documents and links into here, and you can always come back and reference and find all of that there. So you will have this video, which will live in this chat, and we'll drop a few documents there. And let's see. How do you add your Google Drive? We did that one. Can you connect to Microsoft Teams on your desktop and iPad at the same time? You definitely can. I have it running on my phone right now, this computer, and like every device in my house. How do you post the recording on pause like a lecture? This is going to be a one-on-one because I'm not exactly sure how pause works, but we can discuss that one. How many participants can you have in a team? So you can have up to, I think, 150 in a Teams meeting, but as far as a team, I know it's upward of 500, and I'll get you that exact number. Once you record the meeting, you'll get sent a Microsoft Stream link. Thank you, Thomas, for answering Holly's question. So you can post that link into a pause announcement or upload it as a video. Will the link that is sent to students to click on to join a Teams meeting, is it user-friendly, or will instructors need to give an overview of where to go in a Teams meeting? It's extremely user-friendly. If you do it as a calendar invite, it will simply be a, let me find one that's in a calendar invite. If you do it in a calendar invite, it just literally says join Teams meeting. So the link will look just like this. If they get a calendar invite, all they have to do is click on this link that says join Microsoft Teams meeting. A new tab will open and it will ask them if they want to download Microsoft Teams onto their device or if they want to join just using the web. And it's totally up to them. If they choose joining the web, they don't have to download anything at all. So it is very user-friendly for a student to access a Microsoft Teams meeting. Will you post a link to recording of session? It will live in this chat after this meeting is done. Yes, you can. Can you guys produce a how to participate Word doc for students that we can include in our Getting Started module for online classes in the future if we want to lecture via Teams? I will talk to our marketing department and see if there's one that's already created, or they can work with your team at your university and see if we can get one done for you. Definitely. And now, are there any questions that anyone wants to come off of mute to ask?
So I also want to add to the group that we'll be working with Jacqueline Taylor's group to try to offer some training to students in this format as well.
So how do you create a training session where you're inviting people on and off campus? That would be, as long as guest access is turned on for your organization, all you would have to do is type in their email addresses and they will be able to be invited as well. And it can be any type of email address, their university address. My mom has AOL still. I can invite her into meetings. So as long as guest access is turned on for your organization, and I believe it is, you can invite external people.
It is turned on.
It is turned on. Perfect.
Is there a time limitation for meetings, or can they last as long as you need them to last?
They can last as long as you need them to last. For a recording, let's just say you were to start recording and then the person who's recording leaves the meeting but forgets to stop the recording, it will cut off at 4 hours. But as long as that person is in there and they still have the recording going, you're good.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Anything else, guys? Now's the time. We have the experts on. If you have any questions,
Awesome. Awesome is one of my favorite quotes.
I have a question for you.
Yes.
Thank you so much for this great training. So I'm wondering, I asked the question about on or off. What if we want to put an event out there that we don't know necessarily who we want to invite? We just want to make it available to, say, our current students and maybe our alumni. We just want to host, that session. Is there a way to get a link where they can just join?
So you can always click back into any meeting that you have on your calendar. So I can copy this Join Teams meeting link. It is a copyable link. And I can share that link out and they'll be able to click into that link and join.
Okay, thank you.
And if you remember, that's basically what we did with this meeting. We just sent this link out via email. So anybody could click on it. We didn't per se invite you to a calendar. It wasn't a calendar invite.
Great, thank you. That's simple enough. Appreciate it.
Once again, Siobhan, you did a great job. I learned something new every time I look at the training. So I'm pretty sure I'll go back and look at the recording of what we discussed here today. We discussed with Microsoft on adding another channels session. So hopefully we can get that put together soon, because that's way more in depth on what you need to do as far as your breakout sessions is concerned. So I also want to, hats off to David Bailey. He's our in-house expert. He's wanting to help us get this program off the ground. So, you know, if you see him, give him an attaboy as well. And I just want to say thank you to everybody that participated. This was the largest meeting thus far that we've had, almost 200 people on this call. So it's great for everybody. So I see everybody's interested in helping students and helping themselves. So with that being said, if nobody has anything else, we'll call it a day.
All right. All hearts and minds are clear.
Thank you.
I'm the daughter of a preacher and a teacher. I apologize.
I was going to pass the plate.
All right. Thank you all so much and have a great afternoon.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you for the
Thanks a lot.
training.
Bye-bye.